Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode 34. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Friday. Steelers Nation, Dave, how you doing? You were sharing before we got started some war stories from you back as big old corporate Dave Bryan back in your coffee days.
Yeah, back when I worked for a coffee company for numerous years and having to dress up and wear, dress shirt and ties, and the worst thing about that wasn't necessarily that, even though I never really enjoyed, having to wear that kind of stuff, but having to go out and fix like coffee makers and ice machines and fountain units and hot chocolate machines. And I mean, you name it back there in kind of the later 90s, early 2000s, whatnot. And obviously I went on to, own my own coffee company for several years and all now, but I don't miss those days at all. What obviously stirred the conversation there is you're going to have to actually play dress up for a wedding here pretty soon, are you not?
Yeah, if anyone knows what to wear to a rehearsal dinner, let me know. I can take a stab at it. I mean, I assume my general attire of T-shirt and athletic shorts is not acceptable, so I got to go.
This is where you need a woman. This is what you have women for right here.
I know.
See if you can buy one of those.
All right. You mentioned that you got good at fixing, coffee machines and things like that. Can you fix the Steelers? Can you unplug them and plug them back in? You know how?
Man, I don't know if just changing a thermostat or a timer or what else would go? A timer board or a contactor. I don't know if any of that changing out on the Steelers at this time will fix them. And it's obvious. Even the Steelers are a home team this week. You got Tampa coming in, and the line started off, I think, around 7.5, and then jumped up to 8, and now it's 8.5. And I know you and I have spent the last 2 nights kind of going over the Tampa tape and all like that, and coming off of the butt kicking that they got from the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you look at all of this in totality, especially from the tape aspect of it. It seems like too daunting of a task for the Steelers this weekend.
Right. A week after being the biggest road underdog the Steelers have ever been, they are now the biggest home underdogs they've ever been at 8.5 points, as you just mentioned. A little bit later in the show. I think
the biggest one before that was Tom Brady, right? With 7.5 points or whatnot several years ago. I think that's the only time that they have been an underdog that big, especially in the Mike Tomlin era for sure.
In the Tomlin, I believe in the 90s, there were 1 or 2 occasions where they were 7.5 point dogs, but nothing in recent history. A little bit later in the show, speaking of Tampa Bay, we'll have our friend Greg Auman on to talk about the Bucs. He covers Tampa Bay for The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at Greg Auman. So we'll talk to him here in a little bit and get his insight on the 3-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Before we do that, Dave, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers' most recent Thursday injury report. And while there is still some slight good news, some guys trending in the right direction, there are still plenty of notable guys who have yet to practice at all this week. That includes cornerback Cam Sutton and Akella Witherspoon, also Minkah Fitzpatrick and Larry Ogunjobi, also Mason Cole with that foot injury that's been bothering him for a while. Limited on Thursday include Levi Wallace and Pat Freiermuth as he works through concussion protocol. Those working full on Thursday include Deontay Johnson, Terrell Edmonds, so he should be good to go and return for this Sunday after missing week 5 with a concussion. Montravius Adams worked in full, as did Zach Gentry, who said he will play this weekend. So at least one tight end will be available of him and Pat Freiermuth. But overall, still watching very closely that Steelers secondary with plenty of injuries, unfortunately, to still work through.
Yeah, if I were to guess right now, I'd say Akella Witherspoon is not going to be back this weekend. What's going to happen with Cameron Sutton?
He probably needs a week. They pushed it last week, and they probably hurt themselves for it.
Right. So we'll that's obviously a name to watch. The good news is and who knows what's going to happen with with the two guys with concussions, right? With Levi Wallace and Pat Freiermuth. You're almost afraid to even guess with those two guys, even though Wallace is obviously trending in the right direction and Freiermuth's been limited both days. We'll have to wait and see. I once again, I don't even know which way to guess on that. Mason Cole, it sounds like Mason was kind of in a boot for kind of just precautionary kind of things with that foot, and I think he's probably been dealing with that for a little while anyway. Sounds like this team will get Terrell Edmonds back. Who knows with Minka? They're probably just going. It's hard to imagine him not playing.
Right, he should play,
but. He's not going to be 100%. And I think there were times in that game against the Bills that you could see that he can't go full stride on it. I don't think, or full speed on it there though. So we'll get some answers for sure on Saturday, because obviously if Freiermuth can't go, you would think they would make a move from the practice squad with Rodney Williams being elevated to the active inactive roster, and then it's probably a slam dunk that Josh Jackson will be elevated again on Saturday as well too, right?
Right. I expect Saturday to be pretty busy in terms of roster moves. Jackson being elevated again. As you said, Rodney Williams potentially coming up. If Pat Freiermuth cannot go, of course, Connor Hayward will see an expanded role and maybe some other moves to be made as well.
What about Calvin Austin? What's going to happen there? Could this be the week for that?
It's certainly possible. It just depends on his conditioning and his overall readiness for the game plan. And we could not tell you how close he is to those things. I'd like to think that he's, close to being in shape, but is he ready? Does the team consider him an asset right now? It's hard to say. So that one truly, to me, could go either way.
I know the kids missed a lot of time and all, through camp and all like that, and obviously didn't play in a preseason game and all like that. And Matt Canada said not sure how to use him and catching a moving train. I have a suggestion, Alex. Use him at wide receiver. That would be suggestion number one, and suggestion number two would be either in the slot or at the Z position. How are those suggestions on how to use him?
I think they sound pretty good, but I understand there are going to be benchmarks for him, like any player that's coming back and has missed 2 months to hit from a conditioning standpoint. I think it's probably almost that matters more than how we're going to use him. But can he get cleared? Do you feel like this guy can give you the quality snaps that you need? So I understand everyone's itching to see Austin out there, and I am too. Listen, you're 1-4, you're trying to find a spark, but this team still has to follow its plan and its general path to returning to play.
I mean, I'm willing with his speed. He could catch up with that moving train as far as it's gotten down the track at this point, right?
Right. Again, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know. I mean, because it has been 2 months and they do have another week to play with. So we'll see. If he does if he does get activated and play, then how many snaps are we talking? Some, but I'm not expecting him to play.
8 to 10 probably at most.
Right. He's not playing 40 snaps against the Bucs.
What else? And look, you can use, he's a guy, this team has struggled to get yards after the catch. So, you do things with him to get the ball to him out in space. And we'll see who, and obviously if they do activate him to the 53-man roster, somebody's got to go. So, who would be most likely, to be that guy?
It's hard to say. You would imagine a receiver, because they would have 7 if they activated Austin and they did not release a receiver. So you're looking at Steven Sims or Gunnar Olszewski. Olszewski, of course, trending in the wrong direction. Tomlin still committing to Sims being the return man. So could that be the end for Gunnar, or could there be some other move we're not thinking of at another position? I suppose that's possible, but the crosshairs would be on Gunnar Olszewski.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it'd be an offensive lineman because they came pretty much the minimum on that, right? It is kind of hard to kind of carve out a spot for him unless somebody is injured that would have to go to IR. And
right, I don't know who that would be. I mean,
right.
Witherspoon, because he was supposed to work this week, Tomlin said, but I don't
Right.
think it's so serious he's going to land on injured reserve.
Right. And do you think it'll happen with Austin on Saturday?
Like I said, I really don't have the insight required to make any sort of educated guess. I'll be contrarian and say no, just because that kind of fits the mold of this team frustrating the heck out of Steelers fans. So I'll say that they'll take the whole 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well, with you on top of it there. So, but we'll get our answers for sure on Saturday.
We will. And for the Buccaneers, in terms of the most notable guys who are not practicing, they include Akeem Hicks with the foot. Julio Jones has missed time with the knee. One of their corners, Sean Murphy-Bunting with a quad, and safety Logan Ryan with a foot. So really defensive-minded here. And then, of course, Julio Jones, who is now just forever injured. But watching that Tampa Bay secondary, of course, last week we said the Bills secondary looked ripe for the picking, and it didn't work out that way.
I tell you, with the two linebackers they have in the middle and the way they can get out the quarterbacks on the edge, I think you can hide some holes in the secondary there. But we'll talk more about them in depth here in a little bit.
All right, Dave, as the coordinators always do every Thursday, OC Matt Canada and DC Teryl Austin speaking with the media yesterday. Where do you want to start? Who do you want to start with, Dave? I don't think either guy said anything, earth-shattering. Canada with the standard line of we got to score more points, which thank you, Matt. What was your takeaway from their conversation with the media?
Once again, it's hard to get much out of what Matt Canada says, as a talking point overall there, as I pull this up right now, specifically about Calvin Austin, missed too much time to be a viable option, or is it possible to get him in? He says, I think it's still possible. Obviously, he missed a lot of time, and it's hard on both fronts. He comes back a little rusty and just overall kind of the way that he talks about and moving train and yada, yada. That kind of feels like it's not going to happen, right?
It didn't sound encouraging, but ultimately the decision goes to Mike Tomlin. So
right.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Talked about Deontay Johnson and being inches away from, spectacular catches, which, there's no lies detected there. Just have to make those plays at the right times. We're going to continue to coach them up and push them, yada, yada. Obviously had some nice things to say about Kenny Pickett, but got to finish these drives. When evaluating Kenny, he says Kenny's played well. He'll be the first to tell you, though, there's always a couple plays that you'd like to have back, couple things here and there. And he talked about that. That interception
right
last week there. And the way this is transcribed, I think it says was into the half, but I think that's supposed to say was at the end of the half, right?
Okay.
Not into the half.
Well, maybe he was just saying going into the half, something like that. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, end of the first half.
In other words, not field related into the half field or anything like that. Probably trying to push it and make something happen. Well, Matt, you called the same damn play, 2 plays, 2 plays after you called the last one there. And I wouldn't be too surprised if you called that and said, watch Deontay on the outside there. And, maybe Kenny probably thought throw that ball. But anyway.
Talk about pushing a call. It's not Pickett pushing a throw. It's Canada pushing that call.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I did the research on that. It wasn't a dozen times, but 7 times, all on 1st and 10, all essentially on Pittsburgh side of the field. That just shows the repetitive nature of this offense. Yeah,
he's obsessive compulsive like I am, isn't he?
It doesn't work as well to be an OC as it does to be a blogger like you.
I know. OCD OC, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 7 of their first down passes, 7 to 17 were that play call. I mean, that's 41%. And it wasn't like it was the most ineffective play, but it just goes back to the idea of this offense runs about 6 plays, and they don't run them particularly well.
And look, it's okay to have a limited, amount of kind of formations and personnel groupings and all like that. The thing that I like is going through tape sometimes of other teams and it being hard to break down what exactly they're going to do kind of, pre-snap there, because they make a lot of stuff look the same. The problems with the Steelers is they don't do that, and they don't build off of, things, that they're doing, and it's just rolling out the same thing and then calling it, even within down distance and sections of the field, it's hard. It's easy to pick up on when it comes to that kind of stuff there. And we've done that already several times this year in a couple of games where you see the same 4, 5, 6 plays run, right?
Right. And that to me was the case in the Bills game. I could have taken that thing even further with some of the repetitive play calls and the same concepts being run over and over. But I just kind of focused on that call, that 3-man, vertical concept, and then some of the sprint outs that he's been running, which has been at a 10% clip of all pass attempts. So again, it's not to say that they are the worst calls in the world or that I would hate them at any particular moment. I don't hate them in principle, but just to really show this offense is really bland and stagnant.
And he was asked even later on in that in his media session, Mike Tomlin talked the other day about simplifying things in general offensively. Usually playbooks sort of grow as the season goes and people see what you do because you guys are struggling. Do you have to do what you do better or find something different to do? And, just a vanilla answer there. We have to do a little bit of both. I'll give you a little nice answer, a little bit of both. We've got to do what we do better. When we talk about getting back to the question, we can sit here and say, what is it? What is it? And he kind of talks in circles from there, right?
Let me try to find, I had forgotten about this quote whenever Canada was first hired to OC, if I can pull it up here. And I mean, it's a comment that I guess, a lot of coaches will say, but this is back in 2017 when he was at LSU, Matt Canada was, his brief time there. He says, quote, "My offense is simple. You keep your offense simple and you do it better than everybody else." That works probably a lot better in college where the talent gap is a lot larger overall and you can just out recruit people as opposed to the NFL. And I understand no coach ever says, I want my offense so complicated my players can't understand it. Everyone wants to have their offense to be simple and guys play fast. But I mean, that quote kind of struck me because I feel like this offense is so simple and they are definitely not doing it better than anybody else.
What do you imagine the verbiage looks like on with him?
How an actual play is called?
Yeah, with him. Yeah.
I have an example of. Well, I don't know if it's actually pulled directly off his playbook. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure the verbiage may not be incredibly simple. I don't know exactly how they call things, if it's numbers based, if it's name based, or how they operate that stuff.
It's not John Gruden like, right?
I wouldn't imagine so, especially for, rookie quarterback. I mean, I don't know exactly what the nomenclature would be, but I don't know exactly how they call things.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, is it because some, as you said, some play calls can be overly wordy and they might describe every single route. Some of them are based on numbers. That's the Don Coryell system of, a 9 route is, vertical. And that's that you can, 9-8-9, for example, is a concept of 2 verticals and a post. So I don't know how they call things up in the playbook.
Let's see. Talk about Najee Harris and getting him involved in rhythm and Warren and how to use him. And I think it boils down to kind of this. I think we're just going to see maybe a little bit more Warren potentially this week. Is that kind of your takeaway on Canada and Tomlin?
Well, I think the roles will be relatively similar in the sense of Harris being the first and second down back and Warren jumping in as a third down back and some level of rotation with Warren in on first and second down. So for now, that's my expectation of how things will go. Harris has now not the 3-down running back and Warren jumping in on third downs and obvious pass situations.
Man, the way these Buccaneers linebackers can fill gaps and cover ground, you better have some explosiveness this week, I think. Man, those guys look so good on tape, and I don't think they ever come off the field either.
100% for both Devin White and Levante David have not missed a snap this season.
It didn't look like it in the tape that I studied, and once again, they can cover a lot of ground. And the only time I really kind of see them have issues is when you have some offensive linemen that can get off those first blocks and maybe kind of tie them up at the second level. But even then, they do a good job of fighting through blocks, and even their defensive front does a good job at penetration and shocking at least maybe one of those offensive linemen back, and then that obviously changes the ability to cut and where you have to bounce that thing. And I mean, you just look at their defensive front overall. Yeah, they're going to be banged up, I think, in the back end this week here. But you're going to have to throw on this team, I think.
To go back to Canada, assuming and if Pat Frymuth does not play, then Connor Hayward's role is certainly going to increase in Canada. Praised Hayward quite a bit, saying that, quote, "I thought he stepped in, made a couple of plays, and was ready to go, which is what you expect for a guy to be so happy with where he's at and want him to keep trending the right way," end quote. And so certainly, again, if Frymuth does not suit up, we'll assume very confidently that Gentry plays. How they use Hayward will be interesting because obviously
good luck with that
size and style. He's not going to be the inline type tight end. So it's going to be a lot of off-ball stuff, a lot of split flow action, I assume, trying to move him in the slot. So because generally, Zach Gentry is your number 2 tight end, and Connor Hayward as a new number 2 is going to be a lot different body type and skill set than what this team's used to.
You might have to use an extra offensive lineman at times,
you could.
In this because look, I understand you might want to do some things with Connor maybe as an H back and splitting them out and take advantage of some of the things that he can do in that area. And because of that, you're not going to be able to tattle on yourself by not occasionally maybe putting them at the end of the line of scrimmage there. But how much do you really expect to see him as an end of the line of scrimmage, trying to block some of these outside linebackers and all that Tampa, because they're a very hybrid front, up front. And you use him in those type of situations like that. You're asking him to do something that's not in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's not going to be ideal. That's why I think he'll be more off ball where he's not on the line of scrimmage. But generally that indicates he's going to come across the formation on that split zone action. And there's a pretty strong tell related with that. And so you're worried about tipping your hand based on the alignment of that guy. So again, how they use him, assuming they'll have to use him, will be one of the things I'll be watching this weekend.
Might see your buddy Trenton Scott out there, huh?
They could. They haven't used the tackle eligible in a while because they had Gentry, and so I understood why they hadn't, and I was okay with that. But you're right. This team probably will need to be creative to get its run game going because Connor Hayward's not going to be the guy that'll lift your run blocking.
Right. Be nice to have Joe Haig back as that quasi tight end maybe this week, wouldn't it?
It would be, but now he's up. We won't see him until week 18.
Right,
Will we see Deshaun Watson week 18 with the whole nother accusation coming out yesterday? But that's a whole nother story. To flip over to DC, Teryl Austin did talk about his still steadfast thought of being aggressive, although getting burned on some big plays, still wants to be aggressive. They blitzed the Bills 62.5% of the time. So they came after Josh Allen. Of course, it did not really work, but then again, nothing really worked.
And you damned if you do, and you damned if you don't against Brady, right? Because if he's going,
you can't blitz Brady. To me, you cannot blitz Tom Brady.
He's going to see it. And he's just going to get the ball out.
2.4 seconds. It's the quickest release in football. With Ben retired, now Brady has the quickest release.
So, and if you try to man up against Brady, they'll just rub you off, and if you can't get a 3 or 4 man pressure, but with not blitzing the way this defense had, I mean, it sets up to just get picked up. I guess you're just going to have to play a lot of zone and get your hands up in the air because and Brady has kind of forced and because of kind of the younger eligibles that he's been forced to work with at times this year, there has been some mistakes on the offensive side of football for the Buccaneers and some balls that maybe potentially could have landed in the hands of the defense that hasn't, but you're probably not going to get too many opportunities to sack him or knock him down. So you might as well get your hands up at the line of scrimmage and maybe try to tip a ball or just, force Brady to, to hit some of those zone windows, I guess, and not make a
Well,
mistake.
He's good at that. He's the guy that can paper cut you and go 10 plays, 70 yards, and put the ball in the end zone. They're a good. They're a decent red zone team overall.
They've had problems scoring though overall, except against the Chiefs.
But some of that's healthy. They're healthier now. The receiver room is healthier. Ideally, I like to play man against Brady, but do you have the talent to match up against Mike Evans? And assuming Chris Godwin plays, can you do that? And I don't think this team, depending on their injuries, are going to have the manpower. If you got Josh Jackson, James Pierre, Teryl Austin did praise the competitiveness that Josh Jackson and James Pierre had, but the actual play was, it was their first action this year, but it was pretty poor.
Right. And as we saw when Brady was with the Patriots and all, you try to man them up too much and they'll just rub you off on some underneath stuff. And like you said, kind of paper cut you to death.
Anything else from either Canada or Teryl Austin that you wanted to note?
Obviously roughing the passer was a big topic around the league this week, and he was asked about that. Then what was the thing about being asked so much about the Michigan MSU game so much? I guess more along the lines of talking about the link back to who was a linebacker coach?
Brian Flores.
Yeah, Flores, talking about Flores knowing having a history with Brady and all. And I guess where a lot of that came in at.
And I believe it was Austin with him or coached against him in '99. There was a reference to that. That's
what I'm talking about, because they're talking about follow up about the MSU game and anyway, it just
Austin was there in '99, so I think he was coaching Brady, I guess, for a year. I don't know I had to look at the whole timeline, but there was a story that Austin told about that.
Right.
All right, let's go on to a next topic here, Dave. Anything else? Any players have said that was kind of interesting? I don't think there was a whole lot. Arthur Millette did speak to the media and tried to clarify about his venting of frustrations after the Bills loss. Apparently was upset with some particular teammates for smiling and laughing on the sidelines after getting destroyed. And Millette basically said it was blown out of proportion. It's all good, but you do appreciate a guy like Millette. He's certainly not their best player, but super high energy, just cares. And that's going to be important to have when your team's struggling.
Absolutely. And especially coming off of a loss like that and now having to get ready to play one of the better NFC teams in the Buccaneers, obviously Tom Brady, and a very well-coached team overall when you talk about the Buccaneers on both sides of the ball. And, thankfully we were able to watch the Buccaneers press conferences, really all throughout this week, something really you're not able to do with the Steelers side of things right now. Why are they so protective of the damn press conferences, Alex?
It's probably because of us, but I don't know. I don't think about it too much.
Are we giving ourselves too much credit there? I don't know, but there was a time where coordinator press conferences were a lot easier to see. And what's the difference between seeing it and getting a transcript? Well, you get a lot better feel and context. When you see stuff live and you hear the questions being asked. And as we've seen time and time with some transcripts, that sometimes they're not transcribed properly, right?
Right.
That kind of, you can miss some context when that happens as well too. But I thought the Buccaneers, man, you want to talk about a lot of the Steelers ties on that side of things. Obviously, Byron Leftwich, and there was a lot of praising going back and forth with Mike Tomlin and the coaches on the Buccaneers, and they kind of gave that back this week overall. I thought Byron Leftwich, really good overall, talking about Kenny Pickett and saying, look, I evaluated him. He in so many words, he's a real deal. And I thought Larry Foote, some of the things he said about, look, you want to beat Mike Tomlin, because if you don't, he's going to let you know about it, and all the chirping there overall. And obviously kind of the focus, I think, on and too much. And I applaud Todd Bowles for the kind of the way he handled it, because people were wanting to turn this into the two black head coaches going up against each other. And I thought he did a really good job of kind of deflecting the view off of that overall and kind of squashing that as a topic overall. They're just two great coaches, and that's what the talk really should be more about there. But anyway, as far as press conferences goes, I don't remember any other player really kind of being on the Steelers side that talked to me that's had a lot notable. I thought Jaylen Warren kind of asked about, being a patient kind of runner and all like that, kind of people wanting him to, I guess, ask if he can kind of do what Najee does. And he says, look, I can't do that. That's not who I am. That, inside my head, my internal clock when I'm going horizontal tells me to get vertical there. Mm-hmm. And you don't want him to change his style at all. And that's the beauty of kind of the difference between these two right now is it is a little bit more thunder and lightning, even though Jaylen Warren's not a small kid, is he? He is by height,
Right. But he's short, not small.
Right.
I don't know if it's thunder and lightning. It's not a great storm though. That storm's got to pick up some steam overall, especially with Najee right now. But sure, I don't think Jaylen Warren's been patient.
It's like an afternoon shower.
Yeah, it's like that Florida shower you guys at 3 p.m. that would just come by for 5 minutes. I don't think Jaylen Warren's been patient about anything in his entire life. He's just that very much Energizer Bunny, go, go, go. There's no off switch to this kid, which is why he's at the level he's at right now, playing meaningful and significant snaps in the NFL. He's that bowling ball type. That's his style, and he should stick with it.
Anybody else say anything else that caught your eye?
Not really, but to your point, it is going to be a reunion this weekend. Coming back, we got Byron Leftwich and Larry Foote, the OC and DC for Tampa Bay, even Harold Goodwin. People forget about that guy's probably been the most successful true coaching branch that Tomlin has. It's probably been Harold Goodwin, not counting players who played for him but didn't coach under Tomlin, and he's the run game coordinator in Tampa Bay. So that'll be something to note there. Just real quick, I know I've been very critical of this offense, rightfully so, and specifically of Matt Canada. One thing this offense has done better, I wouldn't say well, but better, is their first down offense. Last year, Dave, the Steelers were 32nd in first down offense at 4.1 yards per play. This year, they're 19th at 5.4 yards per play. So still a below average, but basically more or less middle of the pack. And so that is one small, but I'll take encouraging sign for this offense just being better on first down.
And we have, and you go back even to the first offensive possession that they had against the Bills there. They were converting, they were staying ahead of the chains for the most part and converting. And then obviously had a penalty in there and, something else that got them, obviously ended up thwarting that first drive overall there. But, the problems, the elephant in the room remains the fact that it feels like for this offense to be able to score, it's got to go 10 or 12 plays, and you can't shoot yourself in the foot with the false start or the holding or anything like that, or a key drop, because it's just too monumental to overcome at this point here. And are we going to see our first explosive run this week? Are we going to see our first 40 plus yard pass play this week? And it's been one of the main concerns that well ahead of this season, even before the switch at quarterback and all like that. It's been how is this team going to be able to be a predominant running team, have their identity be a running team, and then on top of it, how are they going to go about producing explosive plays? And here we are still trying to answer that question now, and it's going to be even as tough as last week, I think, to do it on Sunday. Even with them possibly having a banged up secondary, talking about the Buccaneers there, because of the way that these linebackers, and I don't know about you, I thought they tackled very well. The Buccaneers in general there, and those linebackers, as we stated, fly to the football. They get good pressure with 3 and sometimes 4-man rushes. I think there was a rush against the Falcons and that all 22 that they ended up winning with 3 guys in there. So how much will they actually blitz overall? Do they need to blitz even, in this game? It's cute to kind of say that Bolts is going to throw the kitchen sink at Kenny Pickett here, but he might not have to,
Or just give the appearance, the sim pressures they run, where it looks like it might be a blitzer. You're not sure who's coming and who's dropping is enough to confuse a quarterback, even if you ultimately drop 7 in the coverage.
Right. But where were we? Back, I guess, about the offense there.
The first down offense. Yeah, some small strides.
Right. There's some small strides there. They've just got to, keep themselves in manageable down and distances, and I guess try to clip the field, clip on down the field there in 12 plays. And one of the things, obviously, that Matt Canada, it was Captain Obvious type, response here is they've got to finish drives. And obviously, the few that Kenny Pickett's finished so far, he's finished them himself, right? He's yet to throw his first touchdown pass. Hopefully that will come and get out of the way on Sunday at the Acrisure Stadium.
They've been better on first down, but still really poor on possession downs. And so that's been the issue. If they can improve their third down offense, even just, moderately, then they can be a more successful offense overall because they are finding more traction on early downs, on first down. You talked about the things we're hoping to have the first of this weekend, the first 20-plus yard run, the first 40-plus yard pass. How about the first Steelers wide receiver to find the end zone? No touchdown receptions for any of the Steelers receivers through 5 games. That has not happened in my lifetime, literally. 1990, the last time that occurred. And if God forbid, if it goes another week, we'll be talking about first time since the 60s. But only 2 passing touchdowns the entire year. That's fewer than the Bears. And the Bears passing attack, as you guys watched last night, is not very strong.
Yeah, it is concerning, and hopefully we get some of those things out of the way. And it's a Captain Obvious statement to say that the Steelers have to outscore the Buccaneers to win this game, but it really feels like they're going to have to, on the other side of football, keep it down. And any trip really to the other side of the Buccaneers into the field, you just feel like, man, you absolutely have to come away with points.
This offense hasn't thrown a passing touchdown in 3 weeks. It's been since week 2 they last threw a touchdown pass. When's the last time that happened? Did it happen even in 2019? I'm betting there wasn't even a streak that bad in the Rudolph Duck year.
I mean, and you look at the Buccaneers on film, especially, once again, I hate to keep going back to the linebackers here of theirs, but it feels like you're going to have to throw on them. So, I mean, you might be headed for another 50 pass attempt game for Kenny Pickett this time.
I don't know how you run on these guys. I mean, I don't want to get into the Bucs talk too prematurely, but it's a tough defense overall that I'm not finding a lot of weaknesses of.
All right.
That's probably a good time to pause here. And actually, we'll introduce Bucs talk, but we'll start with the Tampa Bay beat writer perspective of things with our friend Greg Auman, who you can follow on Twitter at Greg Auman, AUMAN. We'll take a break here and come back with Greg.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday. That means we have a beat writer from an opposing team on. This week, the Steelers are hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday. We're pleased to have back with us again. It's been a few years now. Greg Auman. Greg covers the Buccaneers for The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at Greg Auman, one word, AUMAN. Greg, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Hope you're doing well.
We're doing well. Thanks for carving out some time for us this morning here. Greg, when you look at the Buccaneers, they come in here, and when you look at them specifically on tape, you see that, man, they're good on both sides of the football. But then you look at their record here, and you look at kind of the scoring overall with them outside of the game against the Chiefs being down. Where is this Buccaneers team at? What don't they do good right now? It seems like once again, on tape, they're fine. They just having problems scoring overall in general.
Yeah, no, I would definitely. The offense is not where they need it to be, or where they've used to it being these last 2 years with Tom Brady. I mean, they're used to about 30 points a game. It's like they've won 3 games already this year while scoring 21 or less. I think they had 3 wins like that in the previous 5 years. So they're not used to winning with their defense here. It's one of those where I think they'll take wins any way they can get it. But for Tom Brady to have 7 touchdown passes in 5 games is not his MO. Their red zone has struggled. Their third down hasn't been good. And some of it is things that will naturally improve. They've been really dinged up at receiver. Had Mike Evans suspended for a game. They've had no Julio Jones for a couple games, no Chris Godwin for 2 games. Rashad Perriman's been hurt. They've got a young offensive line. They got 2 basically rookie starters on the offensive line that are getting better, but have kind of taken their lumps here in the first month. So defensively, aside from the Chiefs game, they've played very well. But overall, I think there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, not necessarily in the record in being 3-2, but especially in how they've scored offensively.
Lengthy injury report for this team this week. Yeah. Same thing with the Steelers here, but I would imagine a lot of those guys won't get designations maybe this afternoon and all, but Julio probably going to be sidelined. I would guess that the guys in the secondary are the guys to watch. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely the question marks going in. They had 3 guys. I mean, they started last week without Logan Ryan, who's a starting safety, and then had 3 guys get dinged up during the game. So Carlton Davis, who has a hip, is probably their best cover corner. Sean Murphy-Bunting, who had stepped in for him, has a quad. And Mike Edwards, who's kind of a ball hawk and another one of their starting safeties, hurt his elbow. So all 3 of those have kind of gone a little bit. I guess Murphy-Bunting hasn't gone, but I would be surprised if they have all 3. And then if they're down 2 safeties, that means a practice squad call up. If they're down another corner, they had a rookie who made his debut on Sunday and would be playing if they were down 2 corners. So this secondary was really hurt throughout last year. They'd been fortunate in the first month of the season to avoid that, but now they've got literally there's 4 guys that are in play to not be there, and that's 4 of their best 6.
So we might see that Zion McCollum then, a kid that we kind of scouted out of Sam Houston State, I think was a Senior Bowl kid or one of the All-Star kids there.
Yeah, Zion had been a healthy scratch. I mean, he had a hamstring in preseason, so he was kind of dinged up early, but had not played until Sunday against Atlanta and got pressed into duty. He's a big guy. He's like a 6. I mean, his athletic numbers are off the charts. He just hasn't played a ton. So they brought him in, finished, I guess, maybe the last series or 2 Sunday against Atlanta, and honestly kind of had the kid gloves on him, had him backed up with a big cushion, not to get beat deep. But he's real promising. He's a guy they like a lot. I just don't think they intended to have him on the field this early in his rookie season.
Yeah, he's a Planet Theory guy. Go ahead, Alex.
Greg, you mentioned the injuries this team has dealt with, maybe none bigger or more significant than Ryan Jensen in the middle, Robert Hainsey replacing. How has Hainsey, a Pittsburgh native, looked so far, and how has the play of the offensive line been overall?
I think Hainsey's played well, honestly. I mean, I think there was that initial concern just because you're going from a Pro Bowl 10-year vet to a guy, who had 31 NFL snaps entering the season. But I think he's handled himself well. Has gotten more comfortable. He's a heady player where he's really a good guy in terms of recognizing defenses, helping the line get in place. I talked to him. He's super excited to go back to Pittsburgh. He actually finished his high school career in Florida down here. Was at Gateway his freshman, sophomore year. His family are all Steelers fans. He said his uncle's about the biggest Steelers fan in the world. He grew up absolutely rooting for Pittsburgh. Rattled off about 8 defensive starters from his heyday as a fan growing up. Was neat. There's a lot of Pittsburgh ties on this Bucs team, honestly. Rob McCartney, who's the director of player personnel here, his dad has been with the team for all 6 Super Bowl rings, has been there 50 years. And there's a lot like that. It's funny. There were a couple Pitt guys that used to be here that aren't. Jordan Whitehead was the Pitt guy that was always big coming back. And it's these AFC cities, the Bucs only go there every 8 years. So most of these guys don't even have memories in Pittsburgh. Mike Evans was talking about how Mike's in his 9th year. So he's literally now taken the same lap through places that he took his rookie year in 2014. And he got his first NFL touchdown at Heinz Field. Talked about how cool it was to go up against Troy Polamalu and James Harrison. That was a wild thing. The Bucs won in 2014 at Pittsburgh in a year where they went 2-14. Not the win you'd expect them to have that year. Vincent Jackson got a touchdown like in the last minute to pull it out. So it's neat. There's not many guys that have memories. And at Pitt, and they sure as hell don't know it's Acrisure.
Even Larry Foote yesterday, or it was either him or Byron Leftwich had problems with that during their presser there. Go ahead, Alex.
How is the overall rookie class look? Feels like you've gotten some pretty maybe unexpected contributions, some O'Keefe, Cade Otton. How is Logan Hall look? What's the overall evaluation on the rookie class?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think the Bucs knew going in that there were two rookies that are going to play a ton. Luke Gedeke is the left guard. He's kind of taken some lumps, but has played every down so far. Logan Hall is a rotational guy on the defensive line who's probably stepped up and played a little bit more while Akeem Hicks is hurt. He had a sack on Sunday. He's played well. But like you said, that next tier, Cade Otton, played all but 5 snaps on Sunday against Atlanta, had 6 catches. He's played well. O'Keefe is a guy they love down here, special teams guy, blocking fullback, tight end type from Minnesota. We talked about McCollum. Jake Camarda, who is their punter, has been pretty solid for them, has had some big, long kicks. So they've gotten a lot of impact from rookies. This is a team that had so much back in terms of returning players, even from that Super Bowl team 2 years ago, that it seemed like a tough roster to crack. But they've actually leaned on the rookies a fair amount, especially on offense. I mean, there was a point where I think they had 6 rookies in the game at once on offense, like 2 tight ends. Rashad White, I didn't mention Rashad White. He's a running back from Arizona State, who's their number 2 running back. Was really good in short yardage. Obviously, Fournette's their main guy running the ball, but White is quickly emerging as a solid number 2 for them.
Defensively, obviously, the Steelers are having problems getting after the quarterback with T.J. Watt out right now. Just pressures overall, and sacks are down for this team since he went sideline. Tom Brady gets the ball out so quick too when there's pressure. What's the best way that the Steelers can attack this Buccaneers offense?
Yeah, I think there's individuals they worry about a lot. I think Mink is a guy that's just such a ball hawk and has made plays all over. You have to be aware of that guy on every play. I mean, Brady has been really careful. I mean, we talked about how his touchdowns are down, but he has 1 pick in 5 games. So, I mean, he's being very careful. I think he's mindful of having a revolving door at receiver where he's not sure who's available, having maybe not the same protection he had last year on the offensive line. So I think they've been more careful, not a lot of downfield passing, not a lot of super aggressive, dangerous throws, if you will. And like I said, Brady was effusive in his praise of this defense. He called Cam Hayward, he said, was one of the great players he's gone against in his career, which is pretty strong praise when you think about how long he's been going. It was giving shout-outs to Minka, a bunch of different. He gave a shout-out to Devin Bush. I think Steelers fans didn't quite understand that. We're thinking that's like a Michigan shout-out as much as anything, maybe.
You're probably right there. Overall, and one last question before we get you wrapped up and out of here. When you look at overall Todd Bowles and his record against rookie quarterbacks, I have it figured out at I think 3-10. I think his last loss to a rookie quarterback was Daniel Jones and the Giants several years ago. Obviously, Kenny Pickett, a rookie, going to be starting in this game. They're going to go after him. They're going to mix up, obviously, the coverage and just try to confuse the living, out of Kenny.
Yeah, I would think so. I actually was just working that up this morning. It's 6 straight that they've won against rookie quarterbacks, and it goes back to Bowles' first year in Tampa when Daniel Jones got him 32-31. So like I said, they've been really solid with that. I don't know. It's not necessarily been because of those quarterbacks. I mean, they've had games where, Kyler Murray throws for 3 touchdowns. Justin Herbert throws for 3 touchdowns. It's just not necessarily enough to get the win. And the other thing Pickett's got to do is he's got to beat Tom Brady. Brady's got an insane record, as you might imagine, against rookie quarterbacks. I think I want to say it's 14 in a row that he's won. No rookie quarterback has beat him since Geno Smith in 13. So, obviously, if you can't go into it thinking about trying to outduel Tom Brady. You just have to kind of not make mistakes and hope your teammates can step up and maybe take care of Brady a little bit for you.
All right, Greg, the line even jumped this morning up to 8.5 now. It still feels like it should be a little bit bigger than that. What kind of prediction do you have for us score-wise on Sunday?
I do think it'll be a higher scoring game. The Bucs have had all these low scoring games, 14-12. Like I said, they've won 3 games without scoring 21. So I think they'll be able to score. To see Pickett throw for whatever it was, 327 last week. It's amazing to think they don't have a touchdown to receivers this season. So this is one of those where the Bucs had issues last week where they're up 21-0 on the Falcons, and they kind of took their foot off the gas, and Atlanta actually got within a touchdown late and made it interesting. So I think the Bucs win this easily. Honestly, I think they'll score a decent amount of points. So it feels like about a 34-20 game where I think they could cover on the road. Even with on the road, that's a big win for them to get a 14-point win. They haven't really dominated too many teams on both sides of the ball so far.
All right, Greg, look, we appreciate your time on this Friday morning here. We know you've got stuff to get there covering this team, and safe travels to Pittsburgh this week. And thanks for joining in Dave and Alex on the Terrible Podcast this morning.
Thank you,
no
Greg.
problem. Guys, thanks again. I'll look for you on Sunday. Thanks again.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. And again, our special thanks to Greg Auman, who writes for The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter, and you should. He is at Greg Auman on Twitter. So we thank Greg for his time.
Absolutely, we do. Any, even though it's a little bit shorter than normal there, anytime that you can get with some of these guys to get a little bit of the insight on the opposition there is much appreciated there. So make sure to shout Greg out. I mean, it's been obviously 4 years, I think, since we had him on the show there. So I want to make sure we let these beat writers on the opposition know we appreciate their time and value it.
Before we went to the interview, I mentioned the stat. Pittsburgh has not thrown a touchdown pass in 3 straight games. And I just looked up when was the last time that occurred. It was at the end of the 2011 season.
Wow.
So it's been about a decade since that occurred. If it goes to 4, it'll be the first time since 2000. And this season certainly has a 2000 type feel to it.
Yeah, you're right. It does. And, I'm trying to not lose another home game in a row. I had some sort of stat on that. I think I rattled off not too long ago to start a season. I think I was back in in 86. I think it was a senior in high school last time they opened up with potentially this many home losses to start a season.
Yeah, not good. I should take that back. In 2000, they went 9-7. This is kind of more of a 99-03 type season that I think we're experiencing right now. 03, they also went 3 straight games at one point without a touchdown pass. So hopefully it doesn't become 4, but the Bucs are not going to make it easy on them, that's for sure. So that's a good segue into this Tampa Bay team. Let's start, though, of course, with the offense, with Tom Brady coming to Pittsburgh for what we assume will be one final time, as I think he'll retire after this year, but that's a separate topic, I suppose. As Greg said, it's an offense that has not been as strong and as potent as fans for Tampa Bay are used to it being, but they've had some injuries there. They're healthier now. They have Mike Evans. They probably will have Chris Godwin. They're kind of adjusting to a new offensive line a bit better. And, of course, Tom Brady against Pittsburgh is always a bad time for the Steelers.
Yeah, they move the ball, but they're not scoring all that well. And if you're a Steelers fan, if you want to hope for any kind of upset on Sunday there, you got to kind of hope that continues there, because they haven't exactly been lighting up the scoreboard. And I know in the game against Kansas City, they actually were able to get that done a little bit there too. And the reason they kind of lost that game, I think they turned the football over twice in their own end of the field. That those are things that you just can't do against Patrick Mahomes for sure. But offensively, what don't they run in the running game there? I mean, you see kind of both guards on the move with some of those sweeps that are real effective with Leonard Fournette, where it gets him in a lane running downfield there. They run inside zone, a little bit, I think, of some outside zone, obviously some power, a little bit of counter mixed in there. I don't think you see not a lot of, at least what I saw, not a lot of guard pulling overall, but when you do see it, it's usually 2 guards on the move at the same time. And I think you see a little bit of pin and pull there, but they do a good job of mixing it up. They do a good job of, as we stated early in the show, of Tom Brady. If you get somebody that leaks through, or somebody blows the assignment, he just throws the football into the ground. And they'll do some situations there where they're not afraid to run some out and ups. I know they did that against the Falcons there. And, obviously Brady's not afraid. He's had some young eligibles that he's had to deal with. And I think that's a little bit part of the growing pains that offense has been going through, because they didn't have Cameron Brate, I don't think, last week. So they had guys like Cade Otton, and I don't think Kyle Rudolph has lived up to kind of what they thought he might be in there. And then, some of these other wide receivers have been banged up. It sounds like they're going to have obviously Evans and Godwin this week. So that'll help things out overall there. But once again, they're going to try to establish their run, I think, early in this game, and then they're going to try to build off of the play action and stuff off of that. But you're not going to, if you let Brady obviously get ahead of the chains in here, he'll either paper cut you to death, or he'll wait for you to make a mistake and blow a coverage, and then big play you that way.
It's interesting to see how much this offense runs through Leonard Fournette. You think about a Tom Brady-led offense, it's run exclusively through him. And of course, Brady's still a huge part of this thing, but Fournette is really their clearly defined runner. And he's also their leading receiver as well in terms of receptions. Now, that's partly due to the Evans missing a game with a suspension and Godwin missing time. So there's some context there, but they get Fournette the ball any way they can. And he's a big guy, a downhill guy. Not the most efficient player. This run game's lacked efficiency. I think they're actually last in yards per carry offensively in terms of their run game, but they get the ball to him quite a bit. So that's kind of where it starts for me, and trying to maybe take advantage of an offensive line that's a bit more beat up along the interior, but still the question is, how do you play Brady? What's your game plan when your front four can't get pressure? I really don't know what you do. It feels like, as you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And really the key to beating Brady is getting a 4-man rush that gets home, where you can drop 7 into coverage, get your hands up to knock down passes and throwing lanes. But Pittsburgh right now, they're not in a place to simply do that.
Yeah, you got a ball hunt in this one for sure. Because here's the thing, Fournette does not have a 20-yard run this season.
Right, longest 17.
If you can believe that. You can't let him get the first one, on Sunday either there, but they're not afraid to use him in the screen game. They're not afraid to just have him out in the pattern as an easy check down for Brady either.
Right. Again, he has 26 receptions. That's most on the team this season. So we'll see I'm sure Cam Hayward will be trying to bat down as many passes as he can. You just kind of wonder where that line between trying to bat down passes and then not really rush the quarterback falls, because I think one reason why his production has dropped, there are several for it over the last, since Watt's been hurt, has been that he's just been looking for that bat down, and he's not really had one, unfortunately. So it's not been effective either, but I'm sure there'll be some third and short play where he really won't rush and will just try to get in a throwing lane to knock down a pass.
Yeah. That Luke Godecki at left guard, how many times have we talked about, this season, hopefully Cameron Hayward can have a good game against the left guard. I mean, if there's a weakness on this offensive line for the Buccaneers, it's probably him, right?
Yeah, that interior. They lose Ryan Jensen, their Rock, who came back to play with Brady. He, suffers a bad knee injury back in camp, and they got a young guy. We like Robert Hainsey coming out.
Oh, loved him.
Hainsey quite a bit. But
loved him. What round did he ended up going in?
Third, I believe. I think he just went right after Kendrick Green, or right before, somewhere around, which I don't.
You saw where I was heading with that, didn't you?
I picked up what you were putting down. So yeah, we liked Hainsey quite a bit coming out, but they got some young guys with Godecki and with Hainsey, and if there's an area to attack, because their tackles are good. Tristan Wirfs is one of the best tackles in football. So, Malik Reed's going to probably have a tough time. He's already had a tough time, but a tougher time.
You had two players in Hainsey and Green, both. And I think Hainsey was the one, correct me if I'm wrong, that really showed during the Senior Bowl week that a switch to center wasn't too big for him, because if he was going to enter in as a guard, probably would have his value would have been decreased. But I think he really increased his stock at the Senior Bowl by showing that he could make the transition to center there. And so, in other words, you're dealing with two guys, predominant, didn't play really center a lot at the college level, even though Green probably played it, obviously more than Hainsey did. Hainsey had more of the look and feel of a actual NFL center and size and all like that there. So maybe that should have been the one that they should have gone after there.
And he was on the board. 8 picks later, after the team drafted Green, Hainsey went to Tampa Bay. So
he's a Pittsburgh kid too,
Gateway kid. So I don't like to play that game too much, but whenever you're talking about specific 2 guys at the same position, very closely bunched together, I think you can make that. You can call back on the decision a bit more than just picking another position at another guy that ended up being a better player.
I mean, it feels like Hainsey's going to be around the league for a little while now, right?
Yeah, 100%. We knew he was a good player. He's versatile, and he's playing well at center. Obviously, probably not as well as Ryan Jensen, but I think he's done a good job.
Right.
Last thing, Tom Brady's been sacked 550 times in his career. He's 4 away from tying Ben's mark. I don't think he gets sacked 4 times in this game, but I've been on Tom Brady sack watch all year, and I'll keep waiting for it until he goes back in the first place.
Well, that would obviously play a huge part in the Steelers potentially winning this game if they could get him down to the ground 4 times. I don't even see how you're able to even hit him much at all. And you go back to official quarterback hits in this game against the Bills this past week. Minka was it, and it happened early
on the 98-yard touchdown.
Right, early in that game as well too. And you might hit him once or twice in this game, or knock him down and all, but it doesn't feel like there's too many times. And it also, as long as they don't get down and all, he can kind of dictate. In other words, you're not going to get probably Tom Brady in too many of these we can pin our ears and get after him type situations. And even if you do get in those type situations, if he's not way behind on the scoreboard, he's more apt to just throw it short of the chains on the 3rd down situation, or just throw it away and say, I'll get you next series.
Right. This Steelers team has 3 sacks over the last 4 games, so I'm skeptical they're going to sack Tom Brady 4 times in this game. I'd love if they did. That'd be a big key to winning. I know that Kim Haywood in particular talks about, well, you got to stop the run to rush the passer. You got to, as Carl Dunbar says, you have to earn the right to rush the passer. That all sounds good on a bumper sticker, but that Jets game, they were throwing. They had to throw. They got no pressure. 3rd and 10 against the Bills. First drive last week, they have to throw. Got no pressure, except Minka coming in late on that delayed blitz, and then you get 98-yard touchdown. So that sounds good. I get that obviously you'd rather have teams backed up to pin your ears back, but even when that's happened this year to Pittsburgh, post TJ Watt, this team has gotten no pressure in any and all situations.
I mean, where's your focus defensively? It's got to be stop the run first, because they're going to try to run downhill, I think, early and often with Fournette. And Brady wants to get in 2nd and 3rd down favorable situations where he keeps you guessing of what he's going to do, either run or pass. If you can't slow them on 1st down, it's going to make for a long, long, long day. They don't
run a lot on early downs, though. I mean, I feel like the number one thing is, what's your game plan against Brady? What can you present him that may give him an issue? And I don't know what that is, because I don't know what Pittsburgh's doing well defensively, but I know, to the coaching staff's credit, every single week they're doing something different. They're bringing something new, a different wrinkle, different package. Last week, a couple different things, but the Marvin Leal's off-ball linebacker on a certain blitz package where he and Millette would come in around the edge. What are they going to present new and different this week? Because you got to find a way to confuse or slow up number 12. And that to me is always priority number 1.
Well, it feels like they dumped what they had that was, really different on tape last week.
I'm sorry, what are you saying?
I'm saying, as far as the Steelers go, they kind of emptied the bucket, if you will, as far as trying to do several different things defensively.
Sure. Right, but I think every single week I've seen them do something different, some new wrinkle, maybe not a wholesale change, but something different. So I imagine they'll have something like that this week. How effective it'll be, how often they'll use it, all remains to be seen. But the coaching staff is trying. They're throwing everything at the wall, just nothing sticking.
I would just try to make a concerted effort, and I know they do every week anyway, is you got to get that ball out of somebody's hands.
Yep.
In this game, because if you don't have short fields, if Minka doesn't intercept one and take it either back to the house or back deep. It just feels like they're not going to score a lot of points in this game overall. And then, as we said, it's a Captain Obvious thing here. You got to keep them off the scoreboard as well too, and make this 19-17 game or something along those lines.
Couple more notes on the Buccaneers offense. How do you defend Mike Evans? That guy's got a big challenge, especially in the red zone. They move him in the slot and a lot of middle of the field type stuff there. They run to the boundary a lot. Most teams run to the field side, the open side. Tampa Bay runs to the boundary, the close side quite a bit. They're a pretty common fib team, which is formation and boundary, where they're going to have the strength of the offense of the formation to the boundary, the close side. What they do a lot of, they will go a lot of 2 tight end sets, 2x2 personnel to put the tight ends in the boundary, the receivers to the field to really try to get best of both worlds. Receivers out in space, tight ends in close to run to that side, to the boundary side. So that's going to be a challenge. They'll do a lot of trips where they'll have 3 receivers to one side, a tight end backside. That's going to force the Steelers to put their corners in the slot or not travel and have safeties come down and cover and limit yourself coverage wise. So Pittsburgh has tried to have their move their corners and play in the slot some this year. It has not worked well. Levi Wallace has looked very uncomfortable in the slot. Josh Jackson allowed a touchdown on a slot route, a slot alignment against the Bills last week. So I think Pittsburgh's going to have a lot of trouble trying to match up against Tampa Bay conceptually, because it's going to require putting their corners inside.
And what happens if you get have James Pierre have to play a lot of snaps outside? And we've seen them be able to. The Buccaneers are not afraid to out and up or double move you.
Right. I mean, if Witherspoon, very much doubt he plays. Sutton, I'm feeling fairly strongly he won't play. He could, but just based on him not participating with the hamstring injury that he already was playing hurt on and then hurt again, I don't think he does. So let's assume Levi Wallace plays, which is no guarantee either. It'll be him and I guess James Pierre or Josh Jackson starting.
Yeah, probably Pierre, I would think.
Jackson was getting some burn in the second half. I don't know which way they're going to go on that one. And then in sub package, I mean, I guess Edmonds comes back. Let's assume Minka plays. Norwood could play in the slot and passing downs to replace Millette. But, I mean, it's just going to look pretty bad, especially on the outside.
Yeah, this is definitely obviously going to be without Watt. This is definitely a week where you wish you had your secondary all completely healthy, your starters, right. And I think Edmonds, obviously against the run might be able to help you a little bit, at least, because once again, I even though they probably don't have the MO to date of trying to run on early downs, I think you're going to see it a little bit more from the Buccaneers in this game.
Sure, they will. I mean, they have a big back, and again, Fournette's a hard guy to tackle, and Edmonds is a better tackler than Norwood. But yeah, I think Edmonds will come back, and so that should give them a bit more nickel flexibility to get Millette off the field and passing down. So that's one small thing working in Pittsburgh's favor. But I just worry about the lack of talent on the outside, and Brady's going to really go after those guys. But let's flip over to the defense here. Tampa Bay's defense. I can't find a weakness. The injuries, maybe, but you tell me, Dave, what's the weakness of this Tampa Bay defense?
Yeah, I guess it's the fact that Hicks is probably extremely questionable for this thing. And I think he was inactive last week, but they still, overall, other than playing with their food maybe in that game a little later against the Falcons. I mean, I think the Falcons had 3 explosive plays. One of them was with Mariota and his feet. One was that version of the Yankee that has the bend back in it. What do we call that again?
The wasp route. Yeah,
the wasp route there that they were able to hit on. That was an explosive play, and I'm trying to remember what the other explosive play was they had in that game. But I think what jumps out in a couple of all 22 reels of their defense overall is that linebacker play. I sound like a broken record here, but Devin White and Levante David are both just having tremendous seasons. They ID well. They get downhill in a hurry. They're able to defeat blockers, especially on the edge. You look at their secondary. It'd be interesting to see how many of these guys end up playing, but all those guys seem to be able to hit and tackle extremely well and come up and not give up many yards after the catch in there. And then, their defensive front there with Vita Vea is just an unmovable force in the center of that thing. And he's not just a two-gap player either. He can get upfield in situations that Joe Tryon's really starting to come into his own now. I think as a pass rusher, showed a nice spin move in that game against the Falcons. I'm a big Shaq Barrett fan and have been.
I've heard a time or two.
Yeah.
How's he played this year? Has he been productive?
He's not really jumping off the tape as much, I don't think.
Okay.
Maybe he's dealing with something overall, but I mean, when you got Joe Tryon coming off that other side there as well, and they do a good job of that Anthony Nelson has seen some burn. Nassib, I think, has seen some burn with him as well too. So they're able to get some of these guys rotated in and get their edge rushers a little bit of rest. Now they did. Jannard Avery's on the former Steeler Jannard Avery's on their 53 now. But to hear kind of Bowles and them talking that kind of thing, I don't think we're going to see, other than special teams, a lot of Jannard. If Jannard Avery goes on that field, run at him.
and they signed UG3 to the practice squad,
right.
So they apparently are getting intel on the Steelers.
But I mean, what am I missing here? William Goldston's playing well, and even Logan Hall, who has been in there for Hicks, has had some good reps in there as well too. So I don't know how you run on these guys. I really don't. I just don't see it.
Yeah, their run defense. It started out the year really hot. I think they're a bit more middle of the pack now. I mean, the Chiefs had more success outside. The Falcons had no success outside. To me, it starts, as you mentioned, with big number 50, Vita Vea, and how do you deal with him? I think Mike Tomlin referred to, he's a forehand player, which means you better double team him, get four hands on that guy. And so that's going to maybe limit you a bit schematically. But he's not just the Casey Hampton type either. As you said, he's athletic. He can rush the passer. They're going to move him around a bit on passing downs. He can play on the edge. He can, slant and shoot gaps. So you have to, if you want any chance of your run game to work, it starts with controlling him. You have a guy that's Mason Cole that's not the biggest guy and is beat up right now with that foot injury. That's a problem. And then certainly, as I mentioned before, I think Pittsburgh's done a decent job and has gotten better at securing first-level blocks, controlling defensive linemen. They cannot block linebackers, though. And when you got two really good ones in Levante David and Devin White, I have a bad feeling those guys are going to just blow up plays time and time again this weekend.
And I know you've had your fill of kind of the rollouts as of late here, but and it's really kind of to Tampa's advantage that they come off playing a Falcons team that tried to take Mariota and move him out of the pocket. But when they did, it seemed like he was under duress right away, right? And having to make quick decisions of whether or not he wanted to run with the football or get it out of his hands quick because of the kind of the way the Buccaneers were able to ID. They weren't confused much, I don't think, overall in situations with some misdirection stuff and getting Mariota on the move. And kind of when they did make a little bit of an impact, I thought was when Mariota took off with the football. So Kenny better be prepared to run.
Sure, you're right. He probably will, but you can't quarterback scramble your way into a victory, that's for sure. So I don't know what this team's going to do. You know who the leading sack guy on Tampa Bay is? Because they got, Shaq Barrett and Vea and Tryon, as you mentioned, great outside spin. Devin White leads the team in sacks with three of them. They got six guys with more than one sack, with multiple sacks this year. So it comes from a lot of different places. I don't want to be that doom and gloom. I just genuinely struggle to find some weaknesses.
How they're going to move the ball.
To attack, getting some chunk plays, controlling Vea, getting up on those linebackers. That'll be key, but that's always key. You always want splash plays. You always want to control the line of scrimmage. I didn't see a lot of specific weaknesses in that Bucs secondary. They're more of a zone team than a man team, but third and long, they're going to play two-man, fourth and short. If you're ever in a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and goal, they're going to play a lot of man coverage, so run your man beaters then. But just big picture, it's a good defense. It's a well-coached team, of course. Todd Bowles, defensive guy. So it just was tough to find a lot of weaknesses.
So you're either going to have to, hole shot them maybe with a deep ball, right? Or try to get them into a situation where they do play straight out single high man.
Yeah, that really to me came in a lot of fourth down situations, and third and long they're playing two man, so you're trying to probably attack more outside concepts, more stuff to the sideline because corners are playing inside hip, trail position.
That'll drive everybody on Twitter crazy this week when the Steelers once again don't throw to the middle of the field.
Yeah, and then if Fryermuth's not going to play, that's going to be tougher to do. So it'll be interesting to see what the game plan is to see how Pittsburgh tries to attack things. But this is a good team overall, Tampa Bay. I think they're better than what their 3-2 record indicates, and I think they'll be right back in contention by year's end.
Other than maybe a whole shot to a guy like Pickens or Deontay or blown coverage. I mean, I struggle just to see once again how they're going to create explosive plays on offense. And if you don't have 5-6 explosive plays in this game on offense, I don't see how they can win this.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to you got to focus on what you do well. When you're facing an opponent that does a lot of things well, you got to lean on your strengths. And I know the joke will be, what are the Steelers' strengths? But allowing your playmakers to make plays, allowing Deontay chances to win one-on-one, backside, and Pickens for some jump ball opportunities, and hopefully just get a better run blocking team. Certainly can't have penalties and things that are going to hurt your team and kill drives. So I think it's taking care of the football, trying to stay on schedule, have a good first down offense. We talked about their improvement on first down. That must continue, really needs to be improved as well. And then just simply allowing your skill guys to make plays. Mm-hmm. All right, Dave, I think that covers things pretty well. So we can
I think we have anybody listening at this point now.
Even I'm slowly backing away from the mic.
I mean, it feels like it should be, and I know, the home team gets, 3 points sometimes. I mean, and as we mentioned with Greg, the line's moved up to 8.5 at this point. It feels like it's, and I guess it's not higher because the Buccaneers have had problems scoring.
Yeah, I know we're making it sound like it's going to be a 50-0 game, and I don't want to go to that extreme. But I mean, if listeners want to suggest where the Bucs are really weak, I mean, I'm sure Bucs fans could analyze their weaknesses better. I know their offense has not been that great this year; they have struggled. But again, has that been a product of when you had Scotty Miller and Perriman out there, and Russell Gage, and not Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out there, and those guys should be back. Evans will be, Godwin we'll see, but I think he'll play this weekend. So, I mean, Tampa Bay has their problems. But whenever it's Brady coming to town, it's always a challenge for the Steelers.
And going back to that Chiefs game, they turned the football over in their own end of the field, and that played a part. Those are the kind of things that you're going to have happen. You're going to have to, in search of that perfectly played special teams game, right. That perfectly played, highly limit the explosive plays on Tampa Bay's and get them in situations where, because Tampa's going to move the ball in this game, but can you force them to settle for threes and get this thing into the fourth quarter where maybe one big play by the Steelers can pull it off?
I will say Tampa Bay is an oddly pretty bad situational team defensively. They're 20th in third down defense. They're 29th in red zone defense, but they've been able to still win games, and generally, Chiefs game aside, keep scores down. I don't know if the Chiefs game is skewing things pretty heavily. How did those turnovers happen against the Chiefs? Because I know Brady did not throw an interception. How did those ones occur? Do you remember?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, were they special teams? Was it had to have been fumbles because Brady's thrown just one pick, and that came against Dallas.
Let me pull it up real quick here.
I'd just be curious to see how those ones transpired, as to maybe try to get some sort of blueprint to how do you create takeaways? Because every defense wants to take the football away every single week, but how you can do that is more relevant.
Well, they lost 2 fumbles in this game.
Okay, looks like Brady actually did have a fumble, so I assume he was sacked, and then White, the rookie running back, had a fumble.
Yeah, and that was right at the start of the game, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was the opening kickoff. Right. Okay.
And then they got jumped on right away from that. And then Brady was sacked by, who was it? Snead in that one. And so that was their 2 turnovers. And that one happened at the Tampa Bay 34. That's right.
Yeah, I've seen some of the nickel pressure come off the edge and get to Brady. So you got a guy like Millette that certainly can blitz. I mean, he's not as good as Mike Hilton was, but I think you have to send some nickel pressure in this game. If you are going to send pressure, it can still be 4-man safe pressure, dropping the backside linebacker. But I think that's one thing to do. That was Snead that came after and got Brady.
Yep.
All right, Dave, let's, before we make our picks for the week, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
All right, let's talk about them here. Your favorite athletes always strive to put themselves in a winning position, and it's about time you did too with MyBookie. MyBookie has the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. Bet on the NFL, Major League Baseball playoffs, or play for a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments that they have. If you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, that time is now. Make your winning move today. Sign up at MyBookie. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE. And claim your deposit match of any amount up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code TERRIBLE to claim your bonus. Experience sports in a whole new light and make this season a winning one. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie, and please make sure to use MyBookie or use promo code TERRIBLE at sign up to take advantage of that double your first deposit bonus that they have up to $1,000.
How about that game last night, if you can call it that? These games are somehow getting worse.
They are. And, I mean, actually, at least it came down to the game's really final play, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was one saving grace. I mean, of course, a game that terrible had me watching intently with like 5 minutes left to see who would come out on top. But, yeah, it was a mess between Washington.
What about the quarterback play? Ugh.
I don't know if you can call it that. Talk about what's that clip you show of the old 1930s?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like last night.
It really did there. All right, let's get into some of the lines and make our picks this week. I'm going to have to pull this. I had it.
It was also depressing to watch the Pens score more than the Steelers scored this weekend. But it was good to see the Pens win. Good win.
It was a good win for them. All right, let's get things going here with the Cincinnati Bengals at the New Orleans Saints. Bengals on the road, laying 2.5. We're all big Saints fans this week because they're going to be a lot. If you got any hope whatsoever, the Steelers maybe getting in this thing at some point. There's going to take some scoreboard watching here. Bengals on the road, laying 2.5 against the Saints.
I think the Saints are maybe getting a bit healthier overall. Maybe. I'll be optimistic. Give me the Saints.
I'll take the Bengals to cover this, the 2.5 on the road there. Jaguars on the road against the Colts. Colts somehow favored by 2.5 points at home against the Jaguars in this one. Man, the Colts, brutal from what I've seen so far.
They have been. The Jaguars have been very up and down so far, but trying to find some traction in their footing.
Did they get the running back this week, the Colts?
Taylor's coming back. He'll play, but he's not been very effective this year. I'll go with the Colts, I suppose.
I'm going to go the other way from you in this one too. Okay. I'll take that. I think the Jaguars can beat them straight up in Indy. I'll take the 2.5 points. Patriots on the road against the Browns. Bailey Zappi. The Browns favored by 3 in this one at home against the Patriots.
Man, how about Zappi in the Patriots shutting out the Lions last week? That was one game that we didn't talk about much that really surprised me. I think Belichick will come up with a great plan. I'm sounding very biased here, hoping for the North to lose, but give me the Pats.
Oh man, am I going to buy the Patriots this week? Feels like I'm being set up here, but I'm going to go opposite you on this one. One as well too. I'll take the Browns, lay the 3 points here. Jets on the road against the Green Bay Packers, who haven't looked great at times this year, while the Jets have been playing good football overall, I guess, with their quarterback back. Packers laying 7 at home at Lambeau Field, laying 7 against the Jets.
It's a pretty big line. I wanted to go Green Bay. Now I'm wondering if the Jets are going to cover. I think Green Bay gets on track, though. They're going to figure this stuff out. There's just too much talent offensively, with the running back of Jones and Dillon. Give me Green Bay.
I'm with you on this one. I'll take Green Bay lay the 7 at home here. Ravens against the surprising New York Giants. The Ravens, though, on the road laying 5.5 in this one.
I'm not sure how the Giants are doing it. I don't know what scientist we have to hire to figure out how the Giants are 4-1. Brian Dable's doing a fantastic job working with what he has. I've gone against AFC North so far. I can't do it again. Give me the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Ravens handle them by a touchdown in this one. Lay to 5.5. I'll make this one my stone cold lead pipe lock of the century, of the week, of the year. Lay to 5.5 with the Ravens here. And I think I just picked all 3 AFC North teams.
By the way, we are 1-0 on the week, right? We both picked Washington.
Yeah, we both had Washington laying the point in that game against the Bears there. Vikings on the road against the Dolphins, who's still going to have – they might have Tua back for the Steelers game in week 7 there, but they're not going to have him this week here, and they're probably not going to have Teddy either, are they?
Right. It'll be Skylar Thompson, I think, already confirmed that he'll make his start.
Vikings laying 3 on the road against the Dolphins, who've come back to earth a little bit here because of the quarterback issues.
Yeah, give me, not that I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan, but Vikings more stability. Thompson I think his first actual start. Give me the Vikings. Yeah,
give me the Vikings to lay the 3 here as well, too. 49ers on the road against the Falcons. 49ers laying 5.
I think the Falcons find a way to cover. I doubt Nick Bosa plays. Can you contain that run game? Jeff Wilson looking strong. The 49ers are it's a Shanahan coach team, but they can just find any running back and just put them in there and find success. 49ers win, Falcons
fungible?
Cover. A little fungible. Yes, okay. A little fungible.
I had the 49ers covering the 5 here on the road against the Falcons. Carolina Panthers, new head coach or interim head coach and all, on the road against the Rams. Rams laying 10 at home against the Panthers.
I'll say Carolina gets that interim head coach boost. Steve Wilkes, good coach. I think the Panthers, they don't win, but they'll cover.
I'm going the other way. I'll take the Rams to cover that 10 at home. Too much for the Panthers there. Arizona Cardinals on the road against the Seahawks. Cardinals laying 2.5 on the road against the Seahawks in this one.
You smell a rat here, Dave? I don't know. I mean, Geno Smith's been great.
Yeah,
the Cardinals offense looks a mess. Well. I know they got some injuries. They just lost Rashad Penny, but give me Seattle.
I'm with you. Give me Seattle. They could probably win. They can win this outright too. So I'll take the Seahawks plus the 2.5 points with you. Buffalo Bills win what should be a very good game on the road against the Chiefs. The Bills laying 2.5, coming off of a shellacking of the Steelers.
First time Patrick Mahomes has ever been a home dog. Last time these two teams played, of course, one of the best games I've ever seen. I don't know. This is a tough one. Give me Buffalo.
Give me Buffalo by a field goal. So I think they can cover that 2.5 points on the road at Arrowhead. That's a tough. If the Bills go in there and beat them even more than a field goal, I mean, I don't. They're already top tier in the AFC as it is, but they instantly really become the team that could potentially win it all. Go ahead.
Real quick. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen is, when did Matthew Wright get a leg? When did he get 59 yards in Kansas City? Point. This guy couldn't make 50 yards in training camp. He'd have them short. I went back and checked my notes. 52 yarders he was missing short. I mean, hey, kudos to him, but I've never seen a kicker improve their leg that drastically.
Good point. Dallas Cowboys on the road against the Eagles, who've been playing good, and the Cowboys are going to get Dak back.
I mean, Cooper Rush is doing okay. I don't know, but I think next week is a lot more likely.
All right. Eagles laying 6.5 at home against the Cowboys.
Eagles have been a little, not as hot as they were to start the year. I mean, it's, divisional game, rivalry game. I'm still going with the Eagles, though. They're just too talented.
I'm with you on this one. I'll lay the 6.5 points with the Eagles at home against the Cowboys. Let's see here. That brings us to the Denver Broncos at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers laying 5 at home against the Broncos.
Yeah, Denver, I still can't figure out that passing game. It's just Russell Wilson looking like a husk of himself. I know the Chargers have not been as clean either in Keenan Allen situation, and Herbert's been hurt, and the left tackle issues, no Bosa, but I'm still banking on the Chargers.
I am too. I'll take the Chargers and lay the 5 in this one at home here. That takes us all the way back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Pittsburgh Steelers at Acrisure Stadium. It's 8.5 right now. Steelers plus 8.5 at home. What do you have?
Well, Dave, based on our conversation earlier, I'm guessing most people know what direction we're going in because we beat up the Steelers pretty good. But listen, they're 1-4, just lost by 35 points. The last time the Steelers lost this bad was in 1989, 51-0. The next week they came out and they lost by 40 points, I think, to the Bengals that year. And they turned that season around in 89. But I got Tampa Bay in this one. I just can't find the weaknesses. Tom Brady, Mike Evans, a really strong, stout defense that has very few holes in it overall. So really the score is probably the only thing people are waiting for. So Tampa Bay 27, Pittsburgh 13.
Yeah, I almost went that high, but I don't know. With maybe some of the struggles that the Buccaneers have been having punching it in, maybe that will kind of continue this week. I obviously still have them winning. I just wonder how the Steelers are going to score points in this game. In general here, I have them losing by 10, 23-13 in this one. I think Pickett finally does get his first touchdown pass in this game, and I think it goes to Pickens on top of it. So the killer peas, that way we're able to answer the call for Pickett's first touchdown. Pickens' first touchdown. I'll give him a double explosive play on that as well too. So we'll answer that question this week as well too. So maybe we'll be able to clip the first wide receiver to get the touchdown. Pickett, maybe a few of these things we'll be able to stop talking about after this game there. But I just struggle to see overall how they're going to be able to score points. And even if they're able to kind of keep the Buccaneers down in this game off the scoreboard overall, I just don't see how they can win it. So 23-13, Buccaneers cover on this one.
Sounds good. Give me a hyper specific prediction. You're already giving me a pretty good one. Pickett to Pickens, double explosive play. Go the old. Remember that old Seattle Mariners announcer that called this home run to the tee? Just give me what's the down distance, how many yards, when is this touchdown going to take place?
I'll say something like 2nd and 2.
Okay.
42-yard line or something.
What quarter?
3rd.
Okay, 3rd quarter. What sideline? Left, right sideline? I'm thinking right.
Oh, it's right. Yeah,
right.
It's going to be right.
All right. So I'm going to go with his name was Mike Blowers. Never listened to Mike Blowers call this home run. It's his crazy prediction that he had. You'll never see something that specific be that correct again. So unless Dave can do it. So we have 2nd and 2 from the Buccaneers, 42 or 43?
40. What did I say?
You said 42.
Okay, 42.
Want to lock that in? Okay, 42, 3rd quarter, right sideline, Pickett to Pickett. So lock it in.
Right. Maybe somebody falls down.
Play action? Is this play action or is this just
here's the thing too. They haven't been able to put Pickett up under center a lot, and also I don't think it'll be play action. Okay. I just think it'll be him looking out there and seeing, getting getting maybe a one-on-one and situation where he thinks he can throw it up and his guy get the ball.
All right, I'm gonna write that one down. We're gonna make that one official and speak that into.
All right, how about you got a hyper-focused one?
You're
whatsoever?
Not this week. Maybe some other time, but I don't feel anything. I don't have the energy, spiritual energy right now to have that kind of prediction.
How about an explosive running play? Yes or no? No,
not against this team.
Okay.
Unless it's garbage time. But I don't see this way. I mean, From a running back or from anybody? Even a receiver?
It has to be from a running back, I would think.
Well, their longest run this year, isn't it by a receiver? Isn't Gunner
right, but that's what we're kind of looking for here.
Right. Yeah, by running back. No, I don't think this is the week.
Let me see if I can pull up a specific, maybe kind of over or under here on maybe Najee or something like that. Let's look here. I'm not going to.
What are you looking for?
Maybe an over/under number on Najee Harris or something like that. I'm not going to be able to pull it up quick enough. I thought I had something pulled here, but I don't here. Let's just do this. What would be a good over/under number on Najee Harris rushing yards? 42.
God, that's depressing, but it's probably also accurate. Maybe a bit higher than that. 51. If you gave me 42, I would take the over.
Hold on here, maybe
not by much, but I would probably take the over if you just get a couple of decent runs, maybe even later in that game. You bust one for 12.
I was pretty okay. Here's the actual consensus on rushing yards over or under 43.5.
Oh wow!
What did I say?
42.
I wasn't bad. That's not bad for Uncle Dave, huh?
42 is your lucky number. 42-yard touchdown to Pickens, and now 42 on Harris, which you almost had right on. Give me the over, but slightly on Harris.
All right, so over 43.5. Receiving yards over or under for Najee Harris, 13.5.
I'll take the under. He has not been involved in the pass game. Warren's now the third down back. I'll take the under.
I'm taking the under on both those, on the 43.5 and the receiving yards. What about rushing attempts, over or under? What would you think the rushing attempts over or under would be on Najee, the number?
On Najee specifically? I mean, if it's a 43.5, then the attempts can't be that high overall. I'll say 15.5.
That's a little high by 3. 12.5 is the rushing attempt number on him. So you would take what, the over?
I guess from where I was standing, but again, not by much.
Yeah, I think I'd take the over on that as well too.
But you're taking the under on the yard, so you're saying it's going to be a really bad brick wall day for Najee.
Receiving yards. Oh, we already hit that. All right, that's enough to play with some player props there overall. So we're not expecting a great game for Najee overall. I don't think there.
No. All right, Dave. Let's get to reader emails and close out today's show.
Let us do it. And let me find the email machine here real quick. Okay, Josh Davis writes in, "Hey guys, love the show. I never miss an episode. We beaten to death the fire Matt Canada line, even though I think we all know he's probably not getting fired in season. So my question is this: can Kenny Pickett still be successful this season in this dreadful Matt Canada offense?"
Well, successful might be pushing it, but can he progress? Can he show signs of ability to be a building block for the future? Sure. And I think he has already 2 degrees. Good talented players can usually transcend even bad schemes, not maximize their talent, but they don't always get so suffocated by it that they can't play reasonably well. So short answer, yeah, Pickett can still play well overall, and his offensive system and scheme can still be bad. Those things are still able to both be true.
I mean, there were some nice things that he did in that game against Buffalo, some things to build on here. We've talked about things moving forward that we're looking for with Pickett, with obviously red zone, short areas of the field. Want to see them make some improvements in that area. Want to see him, get it down the field in even bigger chunks. That way. I mean, he has shown off that arm strength a little bit on some far hash kind of throws and obviously in kind of the 20 to 25 yard range throws. Can he air one out? I mean, he obviously had the Hail Mary that was several games ago that he was able to uncork one there. So there's just there's more minor things. You want to continue to see the pocket presence with them. I thought there was a couple of nice plays against the Bills that he had poise in the pocket there. And then just overall in general decision-making, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, the name of the game is to put points on the board, and this team did not do that, but just trying to look at those plays in a vacuum, the progression, some of the pocket movement. Thought he was better moving within the pocket than what he was against the Jets, which makes sense because he had more reps and a full week of practice. I mean, he ran himself into that sack at the end of the game, but putting that aside, there were certainly positives to take away from Pickett's play, even if the loss was ugly.
Mark Urbanek writes in, hey guys, Dave and keep doing what you're doing. By far the best source of Steelers news. I remember the Steelers having a really hard time adjusting to not having Shazier when he was injured. This is obviously the same with Watt. Any parallels, he says.
Sure.
The parallels, you're losing a very good player on the defensive side of football. How would you rank the look? You don't have you go back to Byron Leftwich talking to the media yesterday and talking about the loss of Watt and all. And I thought he highlighted good. Saying where you really miss Watt, outside of the obvious, is his playmaking in key moments of games. It's like when you need this play on defense, you get it from TJ Watt. And, I don't, it's hard to obviously rank several years ago when Shazier went down, and make no mistake about it, the Steelers defense went to absolute crap when they lost him. And it's really kind of the same situation here. Which loss is worse? It's
hard. Yeah, it's hard to rank which is worse. Maybe TJ Watt, because I go back to Tomlin's comment of the engine of the Steelers defense is through its outside linebackers, through its pass rush. That's how everything's kind of built around. And obviously, I'm not comparing the injuries. I'm just comparing the loss and the time in which they had missed, and both were monumental losses. But you're right. And to the Buccaneers' point, not only did TJ Watt lead the NFL in sacks last year, he led the NFL in sacks in the fourth quarter with, I think, 8 of them. And so in those crucial weighty moments, and aside from the Bills game, Pittsburgh's played competitive, close games in the fourth quarter. And so you're losing Watt in those big moments. I think it's also really the trickle-down effect, too. You lose Watt, Hayward gets more attention, you have to blitz more people. There's a real domino effect of losing Watt. Not only, how does it affect trying to replace him specifically, but this cascading effect of how it changes how your whole defense is structured, how offenses game plan for you and play you. That is really tough to do in the middle of a season when you're trying to figure this out and still win a game. Shazier lost in season, Watt lost first week of the season. So if these things happen hypothetically back in, let's say, training camp, you may have more time to figure out a plan. When you're in season, it's really hard to adjust.
Well put. All right. Larissa writes in, hi, guys. Great coverage as always. Looking forward to these podcasts every week. Couple of points. Our starting secondary is average, and it shows, and I'm not sure what the Steelers were thinking going into the season with this average secondary. Look, the secondary would look a lot better if A, they were healthy, and B, you had TJ Watt, because and I'm a firm believer that rush and coverage goes hand in hand. And the better that your rush is, the better you can make your secondary look. So I'm not going to kill them for the aspect of the statement of I'm not sure what the Steelers were thinking going into the season. But I do think it was dependent on the rush being there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, certainly rush and cover go together. I think maybe I've questioned that a little bit just based on some of the recent history. There were some years where Pittsburgh had 50 sacks and a terrible secondary. They got torched. 2017 is a great example of that. But as I just mentioned, this whole team is built around its pass rush. And really what they've been doing the last couple of years, at least in 2021, was really rushing 4, dropping 7, not blitzing nearly as much, and just playing great coverage and getting home with that front 4, which they could do because you had TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and being your top 2 guys. Now that whole game plan and philosophies really had to change with Watt no longer in the lineup.
Larissa wants to know, question, why are we so bad at drafting and evaluating secondary? Ever since I've been watching the Steelers for the past 8 to 10 years, our defense has always given up huge plays while seemingly playing well. And not only that, but it always seems like they play really well in the beginning and then seem to give up. Why can't we play the full 60 minutes? The Bills played hard, even though they were up by over 25 points. That's and there's two separate questions there, but you kind of they haven't been great with drafting specifically corners, and you go back to Artie Burns. It just felt like, oh man, there went William Jackson. We got Mr. Rooney wants a corner. Artie Burns is the next one in our list that meets the rules for drafting a cornerback. But they did obviously take Cameron Sutton, and that's worked out okay as kind of a mid-round guy. But overall, in general, can you name the rest of the corners that have really been even average? I mean, Justin Lane was one of those measurable guys that you thought maybe you could. They like them long, and they like them long with a little bit of with athleticism to them, and then they think they can turn them into something from there. And obviously, more times than not, it doesn't work out. And when is the last time that they've had even a top 15 pick where they could go after a top corner on the board? Sure. And sure, they traded up for to get Devin Bush, which obviously looks like a big mistake at this point now. And they haven't dedicated a lot of early round draft capital to corners outside of really Artie Burns and all. And Lane was a third round guy and overdrafted there. So I mean, it's a fair criticism about them and they're drafting a cornerbacks.
It is. I mean, it's one that's well documented. We've talked about that for a decade plus now. Senquez Golson, bad luck there. Second round pick who literally never played in a game, not even a preseason game. Ricardo Coakley, former second round pick in 2004, went from Ben, one of the best picks ever, to Coakley, a terrible pick. Just shows you the crapshoot of the draft. Why that is, I couldn't give you a great answer. I would just give the same answer I give when people asked me why this team was so good at drafting receivers, and I said it was because it was the same people that drafted Burris were the same people that drafted Juju or drafted now George Pickens, the same scouting staff overall. It was the same eyeballs on it. So it's for better or for worse. You live by the sword, die by the sword. By the way, William Jackson, apparently on the trade block, I've gotten a ton of questions about should the Steelers go after him. I think resounding no on Jackson, but what are your thoughts?
Not at this point. No.
I mean, he's 30. He's owed $9 million next year, if I'm reading the contract correctly, and his base salary in Pittsburgh is terrible. Why would you buy?
Right. Why would you buy at this point here? Wait until, maybe he's gets cut or whatnot, then maybe attack it. But no, I would say no. Also, Dave, I remember you mentioning how you think the Steelers draft with 25 to 30 players they have in mind, and that's it. If that is indeed the case, it's time to change that. We really need to start not only evaluating better talent, but also prioritizing better, AKA not drafting a running back with a first pick. Or wasting a pick on a punter. I know people always see small improvements in this and that, but I'm sorry, this is the Steelers. Our standards are not small improvements. Either tank or win. Larissa writes, look, there's been a lot of conversation I see this past week about the Steelers' woes are related, to draft. Gee, I wonder where we heard that before. Weren't we talking about that 2.5 weeks ago, Alex?
Yeah, we were.
About how this is a team that supplements through free agency, builds to the draft, and overall their drafts have not been great. And it does feel like this team, I continue to joke about it, but I half believe it, that they go in there with an index card with about 25 to 30 names written down on it, and come hella high water, they're going to get players off of that list. And I think you got to open it up more. That there is a possibility that this guy's not going to be there in that round. And but I mean, we'll obviously, but it certainly has felt that way. Alex and I can go through, by the time the draft rolls around, and legitimately probably put together 50 guys based on the old stuff that Alex does, of what they look for, and you can peg this team on certain measurables and everything, and you could probably legitimately build a list of 50 players that most of these picks are going to, and the whole visit tracking thing that we do gives us a lot. Now, here's the thing. We haven't paid enough attention to it. And we've talked, I know I have, come some of these mock drafts, I've talked myself out of some of these players, even though it's been there right in front of my damn face with some of the clues that they've given us with visiting the pro days and stuff like that and all. They probably do need to open it up a little bit more and maybe be open more to taking some players with a little bit maybe questionable character.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important to realize is that it's a new regime and that Omar Khan and Andy Weidel did not build this roster. This is still Kevin Colbert's roster by and large. And so this upcoming offseason, it'll be the first time that Khan and Weidel, especially being the outsider, can build this roster as they see fit. They were hired in late May. That was after the draft, after free agency, with most of your significant roster moves already set in stone. So I would expect a lot of turnover, a lot of change, just because A, this team's not very good, and B, when you have new people, new decision makers, you get that most amount of change early on. So it should be a very active and busy offseason, and we'll evaluate what changes they make. There'll be plenty, and talk about them when they come.
Look, and there are a lot of free agents going to be on this team, and many of them that if you can't get them back for the minimum or slightly more, you're probably not going to want them back. And even if you do get them back, you better have all alternate plans there. You better draft well. And look, this might be a situation this next offseason where you better supplement well. You better be willing to go out and have two key guys targeted at some of those higher amounts that you normally see. The Steelers don't go after some of these top end players because it feels like, Alex, we'll see how this thing progresses. It feels like this team's going to have a lot of holes that are not going to be able to be filled with draft picks.
I agree. I mean, so do you think they're going to make their biggest splash ever?
I'm not saying they are or not. I think they are better seriously consider it, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wonder.
Better be a mix of a great draft, especially if they want to compete in 2023 specifically.
Sure.
They better supplement with some higher end free agents in addition to drafting their butts off. I
wonder who are, and I know we're looking way far ahead, who are the top free agents of next year?
I don't know. We'll have to save that for another podcast, probably.
Orlando Brown Jr., if he ever doesn't get a long-term deal with Kansas City, a tackle, that'd be a good one.
All right.
Anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead.
Hazem writes in, hi, David Knox. I know there's been a lot of talk about possible tradable assets and what we could get in return. Are you able to give me your thoughts on possible value for each of the guys below and whether teams would have interest? He has Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Chase Claypool, Larry Ogunjobi, Terrell Edmonds, and Chris Wormley. Look, what is the team going to give you? Mitch, depending on whether a team, how badly a playoff team needs a quarterback, at least the most attractive thing is there is an extra, him and Claypool, at least there are extra years on their contract that past this year that makes that somewhat more than just a trade to rent type guy. Mm-hmm. But even so, is a team going to give you a third or fourth round pick for Mitch Trubisky right now?
No, not at all. I mean, it's any of those guys will be generally late round stuff. That's just the NFL trade deadline. It's not active in general. I don't know if anyone. Go ahead.
Maybe with Claypool, maybe you can squeeze a late fourth. Maybe.
I'm thinking fifth. I think if anyone gets dealt, it's Claypool. But I'm still not sitting here expecting any trades to occur. Maybe one.
And Ogunjobi, is Ogunjobi done enough where with what he has left in his salary? What's somebody going to throw at you at that? At best, a fifth?
6. I think a 6 at best.
Right. Edmonds, you're not going to get anything for Edmonds. Chris Wormley, you're not going to get anything for Chris Wormley. Seventh, maybe, but why not? Who's going to play? I don't see it. And that leads you back to, at what point too does this team in the next few weeks, look, the path this team is going to have is through their own division. I kind of had fun fantasizing in my terrible take. Did you listen to it yesterday?
I didn't get it. I knew you were fantasizing about the playoff scenarios. I didn't get to listen to it. What was the general gist of it?
Just that I'm expecting them to lose on Sunday, and B, I'm going to fantasize that they can win one of their next two games after that against either Miami or Philadelphia. All right, so they would go into the bye at what, 2-6, right? Kind of fantasizing about TJ Watt being back, KZ being back, Pickett having a cup. Could they potentially sweep the Ravens and the Browns? And can they win maybe 3 of the 5 against because it's not murderer's row outside of their own division the rest of the way, right? You got Carolina, you got the Saints, you got the Colts, Atlanta, and Las Vegas Raiders, right? I mean, that's not exactly, oh Lord, what are we going to do? So could they win like 3 of those 5? And they obviously would have to go 4-2 in the division.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you're fantasizing.
It's
so
a
I'm
fantasy, right?
Right.
Look, I went that people say, "Oh, Dave and Alex are so negative; they're not really fans," and so I wanted to take a little bit of a different route there.
If you want to me, a path, you got to be 3-5 by the bye week, which means you got to win 2 of these next 3. So whenever 2 of the 3, be 3-5. Only one team that's been 2-6 in history has ever made the playoffs. That was Washington in 2020. They went 7-9, won the NFC least. 3-5 at the bye. That will create an opportunity. That to me is the path.
But within that, I said there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching. So you're going to have to have the because look, we enter right now. The Ravens are the only team in the division with a winning record. You probably have to, ask for a lot of losses coming up here, and then once again, you'd have to probably sweep the Ravens. And I guess what I'm getting at here is at what time do the Steelers wave the white flag, though? And would they buy the trade deadline to even them entertain dealing some of these guys off?
They should be. They should be looking to sell the deadline, assuming things don't look a whole lot better. I mean, I would not. I mean, trade Ogunjobi. Why would you keep him? What is he going to do for you? Nothing. He's gone after this year. Go play a guy like Loudermilk. Trade, Claypool if you feel like there's no future there, which is probably the accurate assessment. Trade any expiring contracts. Trade Mason Rudolph. God, trade Mason Rudolph. Why are you keeping him for at this point?
I had that the moment that they drafted that second quarterback that they no longer have.
I've always been in favor. I've been steadfast that they would not do it. They have not done it, but. I mean, I don't know what you could get for him at this point.
Go ahead
maybe
and get a
7th, a conditional 7th. I don't care.
Get it. Don't wait. Don't wait for the compensatory as low as that or value for it in 2024.
Yeah, which you may or may not get.
And do the kid a solid too.
That's also true, right?
Mean, get him out of there.
Why keep these guys? I know it's weird to be sellers, as Pittsburgh's never selling, but sell. It's the logical thing to do.
All right, I got one more good one here I wanted to end with here. And it's something really kind of a different kind of question we don't get. It's from Christine Bond, great analysis. Dave, you and Alex do a great job breaking down breaking down teams, film, and football in general. I realize you are a bit older than Alex. I'm a bit older than him, all right, and have acquired more knowledge over the years. He says, I'm curious how Alex at his younger age became so football savvy so quickly. Give me a chance to answer that for you, Alex, first.
Oh God, that's dangerous.
And then you tell me how close I am. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Alex, at an early age, really is not only I was focused on football at an early age as well too, but Alex has been able to probably dedicate a lot more time at it than I was at his age, for starters. Second, the internet opens. Alex doesn't know life without the internet.
Right.
There. So the internet even in the early days, at least you could get somebody talking about the X's and O's to help even kind of walk you through it, some aspect of it for free. The analysis in games alone over the years has become a little bit better. Also, we now live in the age now, probably not so much when Alex first got into this, obviously. He didn't have the all 22, but he was able to get his hands on actual replays of the games a lot easier. I'd wear out the damn VCRs, trying to go back and forth, the VCR tape, trying to watch replays of games, the books that are out there now. And just Alex has probably not even known what life is without kind of the Chris Brown kind of websites, crude as they may have been, even on like blogger.com and blogspot kind of stuff. So Alex has been able to have information at his fingertips at a lot earlier age, on top of having time to dedicate to studying this stuff. How close was I?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, in a word, to your point, the internet changes everything when you have all this access to information and resources, a click away. So that's basically what it was. Although I'm just old enough that I was a little bit, not pre-internet, but I was the VCR player, because what I'm doing now, I just did as a kid. When I was, 14 years old, my mom's VCR, I'd record Steelers games and then go back and rewatch them and take some notes, which is basically what I just do now, just a little bit fancier and to a wider audience. I still remember the old click of the VCR when you would rewind the thing. So, I mean, that's kind of how I started, but it's just been doing it for a long time. I'm just kind of a obsessive compulsive, a little bit like you, Dave, and just that one track mind. And I remember in college, Friday nights, kids at parties, I'm taking notes on, quarterback play and how do you coach quarterback mechanics. My 21st birthday, I wrote about Arthur Moats and the signing of him and what impact he would have. Literally go back and look on May 21st. That was when the article, I believe, went up for the 22nd. So that's what I've chosen to do. So that's how it happened.
And look, when I found him on a message board posting, still shots and breaking down, plays as best he could with what he had out there and all. And I could tell that he had knowledge of better than the average, even kind of knowledge. And that's what kind of turned me on to when I found Alex. Now look, Alex obviously loves his stats and as well too. And in fact, we ought to call him Alexa instead of Alex.
You are doing that now. Yeah, I did notice that.
And that's not a shot at our other Alexa, who, by the way, Alexa's going to be back this Saturday with her first terrible take in a while on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So we're pleased to announce that. But and Alex definitely loves his stats. But I grew up reading all I would have to go by sometimes is stats out of the box scores out of the paper and all. And if you've listened to the show enough, how I love my stats, as well too. And I think over time, both of us together have made it a priority to, as Alex likes to say, marry the tape to the stats and all. And but there's no reason anybody, if you don't have at least some time to dedicate it to it, can't learn this stuff nowadays. Hell, I'd kill to be Alex's age in his early 20s to have kind of the resources that he had, because I didn't, and it took me a lot longer, or a lot later in life to learn a lot of the things, because finally having the time and the ability and the tools out there to do so. So good question.
Yeah, good question overall. I had a thought. Well, also just the fact that since I've been working with Steelers Depot, like this is now my job. So it's certainly easier to learn more and research more and gather more information whenever it's literally what your job is. So that certainly has helped.
You've never had to flip burgers or repair coffee makers or ice machines or go on sales calls or dig some ditches or anything like that, have you?
Generally, no. Although I did work at my buddy's HVAC company, his dad's HVAC company, and summers I would take apart air conditioning units for the copper, the coils, and I was really bad. So, I mean, I've had a job where I've kind of sucked at stuff, but yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky to just do this for most of my time.
How long did you do that for?
Like 2 summers. I mean, I was just doing whatever odds and ends, low man totem pole, landscaping, air conditioner crap. I don't know. Just I was not good at it. So it's good to know what you suck at so you can appreciate what you're not terrible at.
Well, you're good at football. So there you go. And you're going to have a job doing this for a long, long, long time. All right. So with that, good time to end, right?
Yeah, we'll come back on Monday and recap the Steelers game, however it unfolds, hoping for a victory, but certainly expecting maybe not a victory to occur, but we'll cover it either way and come back on Monday.
We will be back on Monday. So in the meantime, follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button upper right navigational bar. Alex and I will be back on Monday. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a surprise, be able to talk about a win. Can praying for a miracle be one of my 5 keys this week, Alex, or is that it
won't hurt? We can give it a shot.
Okay, so pray for a miracle out there. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.